Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to kind of give you an idea what it's like to ride a CB750 Nighthawk. This is a very popular bike. It's been in production maybe longer than any other bike. Of course not a longer in production, but it had a very long run, I guess is what I mean. And this is a prime example of one because it still has less than 3,000 miles on it. I have a video telling you the story of how I got this particular bike, and now to get it off the stand, which is a real pain in the ass. Let's see if I can get it done in one shot. Nice. So one thing about these carburetor bikes, you know, they do need some time to warm up and get going, so you do have to keep the choke open. I've actually just closed it, but this is the open position and you can see it's starting to rev up right away, and we're gonna leave it just slightly open. I think I've got a mask somewhere in here. Alright, don't leave home without it. I gotta make a quick run to Home Depot, and I thought I'd give you an idea of what it's like to ride a Honda Nighthawk CB750. So let's get on and get going. I'm not geared up today because it's a quick run. It's a nice day out. I let the bike warm up quite a while, and that is something that you need to know about the CB750 Nighthawk. It does need some warming up. There's 4 carburetors on this bike. They've all been cleaned, but very recently, in fact. Nice clean fuel in there, but still I find that I need to let it warm up for a little too long, it feels like. Alright, so let me close the lid here. Okay, this is my new motovlogging setup. Hopefully this freaking thing is working, because GoPro has become a real pain in the ass with like external mic recording. And if you've ever tried to record from a microphone using a GoPro, you probably know what I mean. Anywho, so we're on a 1991 Honda Nighthawk CB750. This is the bigger of the two. I think there was a 250. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. I forget what the smaller size was. And yeah, this is a very powerful bike, actually. It feels super good. It's revving really high, so that's kind of what you hear when I stop. I'm not trying to rev it high. So what can I say about this bike? It is a heavier bike, but it actually handles quite nicely. Obviously it doesn't have any of the modern amenities we're all used to now. It doesn't have ABS, it doesn't have like suspension control or any of that. And from time to time I do lock up the wheels, even still. You know, it's just a matter of getting into the wrong stopping distance, and sure enough, if you have to come to an emergency stop, you're very likely locking up your brakes. That's what you get with some of these older bikes, but you also get a cool classic looking bike, and this thing turns on a dime. I love the way this thing turns. This is a blind corner here that I'm always really terrified of. Okay, so getting into the Nighthawk. Plenty of power, really easy to steer, and a super comfortable upright position. What's not to love? I find the foot controls are a little too far rear for me. So I do need to kind of unfurl my legs from time to time to get the blood to flow. I can, I guess, sit a little further back. These are the original seats that are on this bike, and they're still in excellent shape. But the seats that it came with, the vinyl cover on them, is a little slippery, so you do kind of slide forward a little bit. Now, Corbin makes a great seat for this bike. Obviously, the production numbers for this bike were through the roof. And this specific model of the Nighthawk, I believe this was the first year of it, the 1991, and I think it went on to 2000 and they made quite a few of these things. And you know, you're very likely to find one of these things turn into a cafe racer, because they make really cool cafe racers. I don't know why, but they just do, and I love it in that cafe racer configuration. The reason I'm not gonna muck with this bike at all is because it is rare to find an old bike like this in such pristine condition. There's been zero modifications done to this bike except for this rifle wind deflector here, this windshield, and this was actually color coded to the paint coat of the bike, so it actually looks like it belongs right on the bike. It's one of my favorite features actually that I've ever seen. It's definitely my favorite windscreen I've ever seen on any bike, and it actually is very effective. It's just like this perfect height. Anyway, let's get on it real quick. Woo! This thing is fast. This thing is fast. I don't do wheelies, but if I did, I bet this would be all up for it. Come on. Not the best sounding exhaust, honestly, but not embarrassing either. I mean, it is a powerful bike. It sounds okay. This guy, he just like hangs out on his lawn all day, every day. It's hilarious. Gosh, we're gonna open her up here around this corner. So it's been surprising. The previous video of the Nighthawk that I posted, this is the video that I was referring to earlier for how I found this bike. A lot of people chimed in saying they have the same bike and they just love these Nighthawks, and it's just nice. There's still a huge following of the Nighthawk, more than maybe any other bike of its age, simply because there's so many of these things out there. I hit 75 right there, like really fast. Let's see what else about this bike. Pretty ample sized tank. I've done some pretty long trips on my old Nighthawk. This is my second Nighthawk, by the way. The tank, a little loose. Interesting. I think when we put the tank back on, we might have missed something. And I've taken several pretty decent sized trips with this bike in the past. Not this exact one, I mean a Nighthawk. I went to Phoenix in one shot several years ago, actually the same time of year. It was super cold, and I don't think I had to stop for gas, so that was kind of cool. Of course, riding like this, if you ride like that, then you have to stop for gas quite often. But again, that's not the point of this bike. It's not supposed to be a speed racer. This is a comfortable, standard, upright motorcycle, perfect for commuting. It has got a pretty narrow profile. It's a really good commuter bike. And I've used it as that as well when I used to live down in Seal Beach and work in Costa Mesa. Not a very long distance, but still, you know, an everyday commute was very easy in this bike. Relatively safe. Obviously, like I said, none of those safety features, but a pretty visible bike, and handles quite readily. It's pretty nimble, and depending on how tall you are, I'm like 5'11". I tell people I'm almost 6. I used to be 5'11 and a half, and it's perfect for me. My legs are nice and sturdy on the ground, my feet, I mean, and I weigh about 210 or so right now, maybe a little more. I'm supposed to weigh like 190, but it handles my weight just fine. If you're anywhere, I'd say if you're anywhere between like 5'10 to like 6'4", this bike is fine, perfect. And if you weigh anywhere between like 180 or 170 to like 230 or 240, this bike is perfect. But if you weigh a lot more than that, or if you weigh a lot less than that, this may not be a good bike for you, because it is a very powerful bike, but it's not, you know, it's not enough to move like a 260-pound dude very fast. Not too bad though. I bet it would handle it just fine. Ergonomically though, I bet this bike was designed for directly for the American market, because you know, I fit on it well, and I think I'm the definition of an average American male for, you know, height and weight and whatnot. Styling, geez, this thing must have just looked awesome back when it first came out, and I mean, I remember when it was out first, but I think it still looks the business. This is to me the quintessential motorcycle. To me, this is the nicest looking bike from a lasting design perspective. Okay. All right, so that's another thing I love about this bike. So I was a little worried that I didn't bring any sort of fasteners with me to Home Depot to take the stuff home with me. I'm buying a box of 3-inch screws, and they had a sale on these, like those headlamps for camping and whatnot. It was like a pack of 3 of them, so I brought them in. That's another thing I love about this bike. See this entire compartment back here? This is all storage, so I was able to like shove all that stuff, a big box of screws and 3 of those headlamps, into here, and still keep my toolkit and the booklet in here. And I can tell you for a fact that is not possible on most bikes. I'm not going to say it's a ton of storage, but it was good enough to get me out of a jam. So one question you might have is, can it lane split? Let's find out. Of course, there it goes. Yes, it can. It can certainly lane split. Japanese bikes still use this really goofy like turn signal, and it works, okay? Don't get me wrong, it works, but other manufacturers have proven that there is alternatives to this. There are alternatives, right? There's the 2-arm or 2, yeah, you know, one on this side, one on that side. That seems to work really well, and then Harley's kind of figured out how to cancel your signal after the turn pretty well. But for some reason, Japanese bikes are just resisting. This is like a chopstick thing, I think. It's like, you know, we know there's a better way, but screw you, this is the way we do it. Different thing. Do not go buy that stupid turn signal canceling device that I did a video on a while ago. That thing does not work. I uninstalled it. It was actually a very unsafe device. So let's go over the instrument cluster here real quick. You see my turn signal flashing there. There we have an oil light, and we have a kickstand light, or side stand light is what they call it. And then we have our neutral light, obviously, and there's our high beam light. There it goes. And in case you want to hear the horn, I will sound it as soon as we get a little break from traffic here. There it goes. Anyway, what else can I tell you about the CB750 Nighthawk? Definitely an understated bike. It's not the kind of bike that's going to get a lot of looks from people. You're not going to get a ton of compliments as how cool your bike is, and if you go to like a bike show, yours will be the one that gets lost. But there is a lot to say about that. I mean, it also goes kind of understated when, you know, when it comes to getting pulled over. That's kind of nice. People don't notice it that much. And I don't know, this exhaust actually sounds pretty good. Modern bikes are so quiet when they come out of the factory nowadays. Now this is a California bike. If you don't know what that means, basically California emissions do dictate that bikes have to follow some pretty strict emissions rules. Now this was built in 1991, so emissions rules back then were probably a lot more lax, and it's still pretty good. But what really it means for this specific motorcycle is that the carburetor is slightly different configuration than the non-California bike version of the CB750. And if you ask guys that work on these bikes regularly, they will tell you that the California version is kind of a pain in the ass because it has like 4 extra little tubes that are connected to the top end of it, which make it even harder to, you know, like take apart and put back together and whatnot. It's not that big of a deal in my opinion, but yeah, it's a price you pay, I guess. The mirrors on this bike are great. They're solid mirrors. There's a little dirt here on this corner. You gotta be extra careful. The mirrors are solid solid mirrors. I like them a lot. I wouldn't change the mirrors on this bike. Mirrors are really important to me. I love using my mirrors, so I'll never buy bar-end mirrors again. And these are great mirrors. If you can't tell, I'm wearing my BMW Motorrad t-shirt. I've got zero brand loyalty to anything, so that's me here. We'll go to Scenic Way real quick with that extra dangerous sharp turn at the end. This is a really cool little ride. I'm very fortunate that this is right in my backyard practically. I get to come up here and I will show you the best view. Let's see, is it right through? Is it this one? Yeah, there's that. We kind of missed it, I guess. Yeah, a really no-nonsense bike, you know, and I think it's a great bike for. This was my very first bike was a Nighthawk. I don't think that's a good idea because it is quite a large bike. Here we go. This is the better view. I'll give you a little stop here. If you're familiar with Southern California, there's the ocean over there, and I think that's Fashion Island. The one's behind me, good. And this is Orange County. And this house here is the craziest looking house in all of Orange County, in my opinion, because it's like all brick all around. It's like a castle. It's so cool, but I hate brick, so here we are. And so what was I saying? Yeah, I don't think it makes a really good first bike. I think a great first bike is actually the Grom, which I've got a couple videos on. Oh, look at this! Perfect! Just a fucking, oh my god. This is the worst scenario here. If you got coming around the blind corner and you don't see this, look what they've done. Unbelievable. Somebody's just leaking water Water up here is so expensive. Anyway, not a great first bike just because it's too big. Look, it's a 750. That's irresponsible to think that on your very first motorcycling adventure you're gonna go out in a 750. That's what I did. I don't recommend it. I happen to just have been too young and too stupid to know the difference, and I got too lucky that nothing bad happened. But I don't recommend it. I think you should start out on something much smaller, like a 250 or maybe a 600 bit max. The problem with 600 bikes, guys, I would stay away from them because most 600 bikes are track bikes. So even though they're kind of better sized for a beginner, they are not beginner bikes. So I would stick with like a either a Grom, which is a 125, or a 250 or something like that. This is a great second bike. So after you've had about a year of riding on your first bike, this is an excellent second bike. No drama, no fuss, handles great, nothing complicated, and it is not likely to ever leave you stranded. Now, it may give you troubles, but it won't leave you stranded. One of the big problems with these bikes is this ignition assembly does go bad over time, and my buddy who owns the same bike has had to replace that a few times. Let's see, I'm not ready to call it a day yet. I think I'm just going to keep on its ride. Maybe I'll do it twice. Let's test out these brakes. Woo! That back end is so easy to slide. This is a good straightaway. Let's give it the beans. It's got a lot of pickup. I don't know what the 0 to 60 is. I don't really care, you know? I don't really care. If I were to guess, it's somewhere in the 4-second range. Yeah, I think this is one of the best bikes ever made. I really do. And when I sold my very first one, I always regretted it. It's pretty amazing how much water is being wasted here. Ergonomically, it's such a pleasure to ride. Yeah, there's another motorcyclist on this road. Wow, I've never seen that before. Hardly, very seldom does that happen. We have a little neighbor, apparently. Man, I kind of overshot that turn. I think I'm just worried that my tires are a little wet, so I'm trying not to like lean in too hard. Anyway, yeah, that's what all I have to say about the CB750 Nighthawk. I'm sure there's more to learn, but this is a pleasure of a bike to ride, and definitely a very fun ride. And let me know what you think. If you got one of these bikes, don't sell it, because you will regret it, as I did when I sold my first one. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and tune in next time. Peace.